All right, today we're gonna, in this video, I'm gonna go over a related rates problem that involves a trig function. Okay, so this is problem 6 on the related rates homework. Take a look at it, change the numbers to meet your problem because my numbers might be a little bit different as you go through. So in this problem, we have an aircraft. It is flying to the left. Eventually, it's going to fly over the anti-aircraft gun, and it's flying with a height. Y is equal to 185 feet from the ground. Okay, it tells us the aircraft is flying at a rate of 410 feet per second, so that means the distance x is decreasing at that rate. That is, dx dt is equal to negative 410 feet per second. And what we're trying to find here is how fast in radians per second will the gun have to turn? So this angle is going to have to keep opening up and getting bigger and bigger and bigger in order to track that aircraft. So we want to find d theta dt. And it gives us 2 points to find d theta dt. That is when x is 1,000 and when x is 100. So we're going to start just by saying x is 1,000, and we're going to try and solve it for that, and then just adjust the number for x being equal to 100. Okay, so obviously the relationship here between theta, x, and y, please note we are going to use y instead of the hypotenuse because dy dt in this case is 0. That is, y is a constant. It's changing. The elevation of the aircraft is not going to adjust as it flies over, right? It's going to keep staying at 0. So the relationship here is tangent of theta is equal to y over x. Because y is a constant, we're going to plug in our 185 here. Tangent of theta is equal to 185 over x. To take this derivative, I'm going to use the power rule on the right-hand side here. So I'm going to think of this as tangent of theta equals 185 times x to the negative 1 so that I can apply the power rule. Taking the derivative of this gives me secant squared theta d theta dt equals negative 185 x to the negative 2 power times dx dt. Okay. Since x is equal to 1,000, we can plug that in over here, plus we can plug in the 410, and we're going to get something that looks like negative 185 over 1,000 squared times negative 410. And on this side, we have secant squared theta d theta dt. In order to solve for d theta dt, I've got to try and figure out what secant of theta equals. Well, secant of theta is 1 over cosine theta. It's the reciprocal of cosine. So I need to know, or I can use cosine theta if I figure out what cosine theta actually is. Well, cosine, using right triangle trig, we've got a right triangle right here. Right? Cosine is adjacent over hypotenuse. So if I call the hypotenuse z, it is x over z. Now I know x is 1,000 for this problem, and z is the hypotenuse, so I can use the Pythagorean theorem between 1,000 here and 185 here for the y. And you square them, add them together, take the square root, you're going to get square root of 1,000 squared plus 185 squared. Okay, secant is going to flip this fraction, plus it's going to square the top and bottom because we're doing secant squared over here. So that means it'll be 1,000 on the top squared plus 185 squared over 1,000 squared d theta dt equals, I'm just going to put in 185 times 410 over 1,000 squared, because the negatives will cancel out. Now I'm going to multiply by the reciprocal of this to cancel it out and bring it over and solve for the theta dt. The nice thing about that is the 1,000 squared in the numerator is going to cancel out with this 1,000 squared here, and I'll just end up with the 1,000 squared plus 185 squared in the denominator. Okay, so d theta dt, and this is going to be in radians per second, is going to be 185 times 410 all over 1,000 squared plus 185 squared radians per second. Okay, now let me just get this on over to WebWork and finish the problem. All right, so here I am in WebWork. I'm looking at the problem here, and I'm just going to type in my answer the way it was there. I'm not going to use my calculator. I'm going to use the program as a calculator, and I'm just going to type in 185 times 410, using a space in between the 185 and 410 denotes that it's multiplication, and we're going to divide it by 1,000 squared plus 185 squared. All right. Then what I'm going to do is, because the only thing that's changing from the first answer to the second answer is the 1,000 is going down to 100, I'm just going to copy this using Control-C, go down to the bottom answer, I'm going to paste it in here and just change that to 100. So now, when I submit my answer, you can see WebWork does the calculations for me. You can see I got it right. Green bar of happiness. Wonderful. Success. Hopefully this will help you finish your homework and learn a little bit about doing these related rates problems. Thanks for watching.